And let's get started. All right, so as I've told some people, I'll tell you all again. Yesterday after school, Friday after school, we had an hour and a half. William was here. Several people were here. And we went in order through the identifications from the Renaissance to the Reformation to the spread of religions to the explorers. And we stopped at the Enlightenment and said that it was time to go home. Now, and I filmed all that and have posted the first 28 minutes, Sarah? Not 25, 28. How many seconds? I posted the first 28 minutes on Google Video, and it's linked on Moodle so that you can watch all that. And the rest of that review thing, I just had to do some cleaning up of my computer disk space today in order to put the film on my computer and blah, 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 all right, and make movie files. So all of that up to Kepler will be on, it's already on Movie, it will be on Moodle, so you can just watch that. You can watch that. Do we really need to go through an hour and a half of the same material tonight when you can watch it at home? All right, so some of you who have watched it, for example, Sarah, have said that they have questions anyway about what was already on, already covered in the first 28.
Yeah, and not in the video, but then the part that was cut. So, because there was only to Reformation.
Okay, again, everything up to Kepler will be posted. And trust me, it's enough information for you. The next thing I'll say is, you know on the exam review guide, you've got all of those identifications. And yet, you're only doing 4. But why did I put so many identifications on there? How is knowing all of those identifications still helpful for you?
In the essay?
For the essay, exactly. There is your supporting evidence. So understand that in terms of the big story. Yes?
Can you put up the Explorers PowerPoint on Moodle? There's only 3. Like, mine and Stacy's PowerPoint is not up there.
Don't you just have to know where they traveled? For the explorers?
Because ours
No, you don't just have to know where they traveled, but also, for example, Magellan. Again, what's your essay about? Let's go back to that. Sean, what's your essay about? What do you have to... I will tell you what you're doing. You're telling the whole story. From the end of the Middle Ages, when the Renaissance started. Stop it, guys. To Locke and Hobbes and all of the philosophers around 1700. So you are going to tell the story, because it is a story. It's coherent. It's not just a bunch of facts. It is the story of European history from the end of the Middle Ages, the end of the Christian rule of Europe, the church rule of Europe, through the Renaissance, humanism, Northern humanism, Christian humanism, Italian and Christian, 2 different types of humanism, to the Reformation, to the Age of Exploration, and finally to the scientific revolutions. What is the big story here? The Middle Ages was the Catholic Church ruled Europe, not only politically with things like church law, but also intellectually with the Christian worldview that was pretty literal based. The Bible was seen as a science book. Definitions of human right and human wrong, good and evil, good and bad behavior were based on Bible and church teachings of sin and salvation, all those sorts of things. That was 1,000 years of the Middle Ages. Now suddenly the Italian humanists come along, and they start thinking for themselves. That's what humanism is. It's thinking for yourself. It's observing and noticing what you observe and looking at it new. Quote, thinking like an alien, for those of you in my English class. Being objective, critically thinking. Not trusting authority, no matter where it comes from, a pope or a Bible, if it disagrees with your own eyes. And so that was, and your own logic. Okay, so that's Italian humanism. We see humanism continue through the Reformation because Martin Luther starts disagreeing, again, a Christian, a humanist, but he starts disagreeing with the church. And we see it go on and on. Then we see the explorers. Now, how do the explorers, so the whole story, to back up, the whole story is this. Europe for 1,000 years, in the mind and in society, politics, law, everything, was church. Church set everything. Catholic Church. From the beginning of the Renaissance With the rebirth of humanism, Renaissance means rebirth, with the rebirth of humanism, you suddenly had independent thinking again. This starts around 1300. By 1500, as you know on your timeline, Michelangelo, Leonardo, all those guys, the high Renaissance. That's when the Renaissance didn't just happen in one day. It took 200 years to go from the first sparks of independent thinking to 200 years later, the high Renaissance, where this explosion of creative genius, Michelangelo, Leonardo, Raphael, all those guys. 1500, perfect convenient date. 1522, Martin Luther. It all happens at the same time. 1492, close to 1500, exploration begins. The European worldview starts exploding, shattering. Magellan goes around the world. To get back to the explorers, do you just have to know where they went? No, because what happened? Because Magellan sailed in one direction and came back to where he started from. That proved the earth was round. What are the effects of that on what Europe had been told was true about the world for 1,000 years? What are the effects of that?
Earth is not flat.
The earth is not flat. What's the effect of that? So what?
Bible is wrong.
Church teachings are wrong. Now, does the Bible say the earth is flat? It implies it a million times. So yeah, I suppose it actually, it's hard to deny that when you read the Bible, it has a flat earth worldview. So all of these things, even the explorers saw other cultures. People who had never heard in the New World, Aztecs, Incas, had never heard of Jesus, had never heard of the Pope, and worse yet, had their own gods. And had good people walking around. And weren't anything like the savages that non-believers were supposed to be. So culturally, discovering all of these new, in the exploration age, discovering all of these new cultures. Again, it's the beginning of modern multiculturalism. We're all used to multiculturalism now. Europe wasn't. Europe was stuck in its little corner of the continent for 1,000 years, isolated. And then it starts meeting other civilizations and having to fit those into the way it sees the world. So the explorers know it's not just, oh yeah, he went and discovered this. What effect did that have? New learning, new facts, new observations on the way Europe had been thinking for 1,000 years. So that's the age of exploration. And then we move on to the scientific revolution. Now again, the high Renaissance, 1500. What's our Newton date? You got to add that to your timeline. 1666. So let's just put it together in the story. 166 years, quote, it's not really, what was it, 1670 something when he wrote, 1668? I don't know. Whatever, when he wrote the Principia, which is his famous book, Newton is important. Newton is remembered. Newton was miraculous. For what? What's his accomplishment? Gravity. Okay, well, boy, that's really exciting. Newton said, yeah, that's because of gravity. So what? There's much more to it than that. How did that?
No.
It started with the humanists. The humanists started saying, I'm not sure this and this and this is true of what the authorities have been telling us. And Newton really finished the Enlightenment with this idea of gravity, because it forced a radical root change on the way Europeans saw the world. Somebody explain it to me.
People can't go up to heaven.
People can't go up to heaven? More. Newton didn't say that either.
It's not.
Go on.
Isn't that Galileo?
Yeah, Galileo is more of the, because remember, Galileo saw through the telescope. He saw craters on the moon. There's not going to be craters on a thing that's made of light and fire, right? It's solid. There's shadows on it. But no, Newton, gravity. Why is gravity such a boring idea for us? Of course, gravity. A new idea then. It explains something. Earth is spinning. I'm still looking for it.
Well, isn't it controlled
No.
by God?
The world isn't controlled by God? Well, wait.
The universe.
Mechanistic
There's no heaven.
Mechanistic views, Sarah said. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay, mechanistic view. Of what?
Everything can be explained, like the earth, and then like the humans are explainable by science, logic.
Earth is explainable. Humans, not quite Newton, because gravity. Is the only thing that obeys gravity something on Earth?
Space.
The universe. Everything up there in the heavens moves according to natural laws. The same laws that make this happen right here, this pin going up and down, make the moon go around the Earth in its orbit, make the planets go around the sun, and keep everything in their place. It's natural laws. It's not miraculous. It's not anything, since it can be explained, demonstrated, mathematically, predicted, it's no longer a miracle. There's no mystery left. There's no mystery to why the heavens move the way they do. Where is God then? Because for 1,000 years, God was the explanation of why planets travel the way they do, why stars travel the way they do, why the sun, why everything else. They were moved by God and his helpers. And so this picture of, as a famous thinker put it, the enchanted universe, enchanted, it was magical. Up there, magical things were happening. The universe was full of spirit. The heavens were full of spirit. They were all moving because of spiritual things. The universe was suddenly disenchanted. All of that magic was gone and it was replaced with mathematical explanations. Totally rational, based on observation, mathematical proof. You don't believe me? Check my math and look for yourself. That star will be in this place in a week or a year or 5 years. I can prove it, and you can look with your own eyes and check the math, right? So there's no more magic needed to explain the heavens. The universe is now a machine. It runs by natural laws. Natural law, natural law, natural law, natural law. Everything is now natural. There's nothing supernatural.
How do we explain the moral or immoral about explaining by logic and math from like religious beliefs? How are we supposed to determine what is moral or immoral? Because on that still we have to include our moral, religious and scientific things.
Right over here? No. All right, let's start with moral. Well, do we want to go in this direction? Let's see. Okay, now I'm gonna put that question on hold for a second because that is an overview of the story. It starts with a good starting place is Pico, isn't it? Pico says what? William, you can tell us that. Pico says what? William, speak up.
That man is not fallen and can be higher than angels.
That man is not fallen. Man is not fallen. Man can be higher than angels. We're not a race that should be ashamed of ourselves. We're not a race that needs authorities to tell us the truth. We've got amazing brains, amazing powers, if we use them. Amazing senses to observe and think about what we see. That started with Pico around 1500. By the time of Newton, 200 years later, it had gone from just thinking about what you see to now explaining mathematically. You're no longer in the world of theory, you're in the world of proof, mathematics. This is capital T true, and I can prove it to you. Just check my math. If I'm wrong, you just help me discover that I'm wrong. If you can show me that it's not true, my math is bad, I'm a scientist. I say, okay, that's not true, thank you. We still don't know the truth there. But until it can be proven, as humanists, and science is like the son or grandson of humanism. Do you see that? Humanism was, I'm going to observe with my eyes, and I'm going to think about what I observe. And that's what I'm going to trust as authority, not what somebody tells me, no matter who it is. If it disagrees with what I see and how I think about what I see. That's humanism. Science is the same thing, except now it's using mathematics. So science is humanism, just more evolved, more advanced, more developed. So it's all one story. Now, so now I'm going to go to Kepler, all right, because that's where we left off last time, William. And bang through that, and the rest will be on Moodle for you to catch up to the last part. If you want to stay for question and answer after Kepler about anything before that, we can do that. But let's finish the thing first. I'll get back to moral and religious later.